this is Fahad here from SeeThroughPanel. Slight change of plans for this week's episode. The original plan was to do a crossover with Erin from Girls Talk Comics. Unfortunately, we've had to postpone the recording of that due to circumstances beyond our control. So instead, I am going to be doing a cheeky mini-pod where I'm going to highlight some of the books that I've reviewed on my blog that I think you should read. My blog, for those of you who aren't aware, is socialblunderer.co.uk. That's socialblunderer.co.uk. And these are just 3 books that I've reviewed that I really enjoyed, and we're going to be starting off with Pistouvi by Merwan and Bertrand Gatignol. It is published by Magnetic Press. Let me just double check that. I did have it written down somewhere. Yes, Magnetic Press are the publishers of this book. I'll read the description out quickly. So Jean is a little girl who lives with a mischievous fox named Pistouvi. They share a charming little treehouse surrounded by a magical prairie tended to by a giant tractor man and the wind spirit that he loves. Together, Jean and Pistouvi spend days frolicking without care, but soon the birds arrive and everything changes. It describes the blurb describes it as a beautiful lyrical fable about the inevitable transition from childhood freedom to adult responsibility, replete with laughs, nostalgia, and heartache. And I heartily agree with that. In tone, I would say this is somewhere between the melancholic stylings of the Moomins. So, like, for me, the Moomins always quite always got like a tone of melancholy through those stories, and I think that's the same here. And it's kind of mixed with kind of adventurous times, kind of sense of anarchic fun, and it's presented in these bold black and white style, very sort of reminiscent of Studio Ghibli. It's the characters are charismatic. I immediately fell in love with Pistouvi and Jean. Their relationship is kind of perfectly captures kind of how, there's a line from Stephen King's Stand By Me. You never have friends like you make friends when you're kids, and you never have friendships that intense really ever again. And I think that's kind of one of the themes that goes through the book, is how everything changes and how maintaining friendships is from childhood to adulthood is really it's not easy at all. It's quite difficult. The artwork is gorgeous. The character designs are imaginative, and it's really visually stimulating. I think in some reviews I've read, it's kind of like a Studio Ghibli manga-esque style. I'd say the style is very bold. It's very you can tell that both the creators kind of worked in animation. There's a sense of fluidity and movement throughout the artwork, but the dialogue is also kind of deeply human. For there's only one human character in the book, which is Jean, but it's kind of like Jean deeply human, and you get a real sense that they've captured the relationship that two children have with each other, Highly recommended from me. If you've got kids over 8 years old, buy this as a Christmas present for them, or just buy this as a present for them. They will absolutely love it. And that is, I believe it's going to be out in November. The next book that I want to talk about is Soon Volume 1. So Soon Volume 1 is by Thomas Cadène and Benjamin Adam, published by Europe Comics. I'll read the description. The year is 2150. The world has changed significantly. Damage caused by climate change and the resurgence of certain deadly diseases has drastically reduced the world's population. Nature has taken back control, and the survivors are spread over different urban zones. Simone, 50, is an astronaut who's been training for a controversial one-way space mission. Simone will have to leave her son Yuri behind forever. Before they say goodbye, Simone asks Yuri to travel with her to 7 different urban zones. So, Soon, Volume 1 manages to mix masterful world building with intimate family drama. The artwork is bold. Each of the 7 zones are given a different color palette. So, for example, the Louisiana zone is given kind of these lemony yellow colors, whereas Brazil, I think Brazil, was it South Africa? South African Cape Town are given these kind of reds, dark red and pinks, which is kind of very ominous kind of a color palette. So in that way, it kind of does the same thing that another book that I enjoyed this year, Titan, did, kind of using these color palettes to, just one or two colors to kind of really accent the artwork. The character designs are quite straightforward, so they're not hyper detailed. They're kind of simple faces, almost like Tintin, in terms of it's just 2 dots for the eyes, but they're able with this simplicity to convey so much depth of emotion between Yuri and Simone, kind of just with a tilt of a head or the raise of an eyebrow. So I really appreciated that. The dialogue is very, very well observed, I think. It's very naturalistic conversations that happen between Simone and Yuri, and this kind of power struggle between the two of them. Yuri desperately wants his mother to stay on Earth, but Simone is trained for such a long time and is sacrificing so much, not just for herself, but to potentially save humanity. At the moment in the world, we are suffering from climate catastrophes, and also with the coronavirus, this story may hit a little bit too close to home for some people, but I think it's well worth checking out. If I've got a criticism of it, there is quite a lot of what Mark Commode would describe as basal exposition. So there is quite a lot of exposition in the story to kind of help us understand and establish why the world is currently the way it is in the world of the comic, in the universe of the comic. But it's quite cleverly framed as Yuri trying to explain the way he understands history to his mother, and his mother will come back at him and actually say, what your school's taught you there is incorrect. Some of the explanatory diagrams are kind of quite experimental as well. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Rusty Brown in places. But yeah, I think this is a really beautifully observed kind of a beautifully imagined family drama kind of set in a sci-fi world, and yeah, I'd highly recommend you check this out if you're into a bit of escapism. And yeah, so that, that's that one there. The next one I'm going to be recommending is a bit of a downer, unfortunately. This is The Photographer of Mauthausen by Mauthausen. It's a German place. I think Mauthausen is more correct. So The Photographer of Mauthausen by Salva, Rubio, drawn by Pedro J. Colombo, and coloured by Antzane Lander, and this is published by Dead Reckoning. So Dead Reckoning, they publish a lot of World War II comics, and they've got a pretty fantastic slate of books coming out. So if you're interested in historical World War II comics, I would highly recommend you have a look at their listings. So I'll quickly read out just a little bit of the description, because it's quite a long description in the blurb. This is a dramatic retelling of true events of the life of Francois Boix, a Spanish press photographer and communist who fled to France at the beginning of World War II. He's subsequently captured by the Nazis and sent to the notorious Mauthausen concentration camp, where he spent the war among thousands of other Spaniards, and more of half of whom lost their lives. Boix finds himself the assistant of a SS officer who's documenting prisoner deaths at the camp, and Boix decides he's got a chance to prove Nazi war crime by stealing negatives of these perverse photos. So in tone, what this reminded me of is if The Great Escape had a kid with Schindler's List. By the way, the Photographer of Mauthausen is in is a movie on Netflix. I'm kind of halfway through watching it at the moment. A little bit different from the comic, but yeah, I'd recommend you check out the movie as well, because it seems to be quite good so far. So World War II is it's got such a rich seam of stories that aren't regularly told. You've got certain idiots on Twitter not being aware of the fact that Indian soldiers served on the front line in both World War II and World War One. So I wasn't aware of Mauthausen concentration camp, and I wasn't aware of this story. It's like so many terrible things happened through World War II. So I think any medium or any chance we get to kind of remember these heroic acts and these terrible things is an opportunity that we should take. The artwork here, out of the 3 comics that I've recommended, is probably the least striking. I don't want to say it's serviceable, because I think that'd be doing a disservice to it. At moments, it's incredibly poignant and powerful, and there was a point towards the end of the book where I nearly burst out in tears due to the utter unfairness of what happened to one of the characters in this. It's an unflinching look at the brutality experienced by the prisoners there. It doesn't shy away from showing scenes of torture and death. And I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but I thought it was telling a very important story. very, very powerfully. And, there are a lot of intimate conversations and political machinations that go on in the story as well. So Box is trying to constantly cajole and convince and threaten people into getting his own way. And, it's kind of a character study of, the single-minded, bloody determination that you kind of need to see yourself through a situation like that, and kind of how even if you do everything right, you still can get hurt in a situation like this. So I wrote in my review that there are a lot of graphic novels about World War II. Very, very few of them are going to be as good as this one. So that's the photographer Mauthausen. I really should have checked out how to pronounce these names before I started recording. So those are my 3 top picks of books that you should be checking out. I'm just going to read out a list of other books that I've reviewed that I think are worth reading. So just really quickly, Maximilian Urate's Battleborn is a really good graphic novel about the war in Afghanistan. It's kind of respectful to the stories of everyone involved in it. The Zolas by Melanie McCaggy and Alice Chimama has got stunning artwork. It's very kind of painterly. The kind of very kind of naturalistic, stimulating colours, and I didn't really know a lot about Emil Zola and his marriage, but it beautifully captures the relationship between 2 people who love each other very much, who are a support to each other, who are a comfort to each other, but also are capable of hurting each other very, very badly. So that's another comic that I'd recommend. What else? Carmen Volume 1 from Guillem March. This is how to describe it? It's a graphic novel about death and suicide. Carmen, who is this angel of death, is very kind of reminiscent of. You can tell it's very much inspired by Neil Gaiman's Death from the Sandman comics. So I think Carmen's a very different character. She's much more anarchic and fiery and energetic, kind of. I don't want to say manic pixie girl, but kind of. She's very much, kind of let's have an adventure sort of thing as an angel of death, and she's kind of guiding this lady Catalina who has killed herself, trying to make sure that she doesn't repeat the same mistakes in her next life. The artwork is really bright and rich and vivid. I think one of the reasons I really enjoyed the comic, it gives a really strong sense of place. So last year I went to Andalusia for about a month and just went around the different cities there. With this comic, you can really tell that it's a Spanish comic. The architecture of the streets, Spanish, the clothing, everything gives you a kind of a sense of place. The character designs are very animated, and the the dialogue is probably the weakest part, but even then and I think that might be to do with the translation, but it's a very good comic book that I think you should check out. And what else would I have talked about? Pistouvi, Zola, Battleborn, Carmen, photographer Mauthausen. I've said that like differently every time. Oh, Big Black Stand at Attica, which is the story of Frank Smith. So Big Black Stand at Attica by Frank Big Black Smith, Jared Rainmuth, and Ami Zian. I'll say that it's pronounced like that. And it's just a graphic novel memoir that covers the horrific events that happened at Attica Prison. And yeah, it's Black History Month in the UK. If you want to read about an incident that exemplifies historic, systemic, institutional racism, then this is a story that kind of exemplifies that. Okay, guys, that's it. Like I said, a lot of these reviews are available on our blog, www.socialblunderer.co.uk. If you could please donate to the tip jar for SeeThroughPanel, so you can find that at tip.pinecast.com/jar/see SeeThroughPanel. So let's say that again. You can go to tips.pinecast.com/jar/see-through-panel, and you can if you can donate some money, it'll help us keep the lights on, as it were. We will try and reschedule the crossover episode for next week. We've got some exciting things coming up, including a pretty big interview with a creator that we can't announce yet, but keep your ears and eyes open. We've got a few other crossover episodes coming up, and we should be doing something pretty exciting for Halloween as well. Okay guys, thank you.